If you have chronic lower back pain or have disc injuries or ankylosing spondylitis like I do, then it can become very aware that your back needs to be protected all of the time. But that actually is not the case. If you're feeling like you need to protect your back 24/7, you're going to run into more problems. You can start to think, am I going to cause more damage if I move? Is this only going to get worse? Should I avoid bending and twisting? Or you go another way and you start thinking you need to do a ton of lower back strengthening exercises, and then you start doing too much and aggravate things further, and both lead you to feeling absolutely stuck and not knowing what to do. So in this video, I'm going to take you through all of the things that I used to recover from my own initial disc injuries and how I've been able to remain pain-free even with inflammatory arthritis in my spine. First off, stop thinking of your lower back as being fragile. It's designed to move, it's designed to twist, it's designed to bend, and if you try and move weird or try and protect it all of the time, you will make yourself feel worse. The key thing is to reduce the range of motion temporarily and try and breathe through it. So not all pain is a bad pain, and sometimes as you do start to move, it will temporarily start to get a little bit worse until you've actually stuck at it with a few minutes, then it will start to reduce. The things that I found most helpful for me was actually to get my hip movement involved as well. So putting my leg up on something and just gently rocking forwards and backwards to start to get a bit of movement going on with the hips. That helped to ease the lower back so much more. And after spending just a few minutes working on that, I was then able to retest bending and twisting to see how it would feel, and it would start to reduce over time. Going back and forth between those things and actually retesting movements is one of the most important things you can ever do. So you don't want to avoid a movement forever. You just may need to temporarily reduce the range a bit. Try a couple of exercises that you know will make things relax a little bit more for you, and then get back into the movement. With disc injuries, it's not so much about capacity of what you can do, it's about gradually building up your load tolerance overall. So alongside full range of motion movements for the hips and moving the spine, we also want to build some core tension as well. And the best way to do that is to use regressed side plank positions to work on dragging the elbow towards the hip and actually fire this up and switch this on first, and then use that to drive you up into the position. So your body's actually shaking and it actually starts to feel like the muscles are working and being strong. Combining that with some hip activation work is really helpful as well. So whenever I was at my worst with my disc injuries, I wasn't even able to get myself really up into this position without extreme pain. So I would have just worked on getting the tension here before lifting the hips up, relaxing the breathing down, trying to calm my nervous system down, and then from there I would lift up, and then I would try and lift the top leg up as much as I can, and then I would bring the leg down and actually squeeze the legs together. So this is something that's often missed with a lot of core work, is they work on the outer hip, but they don't work on the inside, okay? So lift up high, and then go in and squeeze the legs together as well. So you're trying to work on the outer hip and the inner hip with the core activation at the same time, and that's essentially like giving your spine a hug. That makes things feel a lot safer and has the biggest chance of reducing your pain. The next big one here is that pain doesn't have to be zero for you to get started. A pain will only start to get worse if you push too far too soon. If you keep your breathing relaxed and use easier exercises to actually wiggle around and move in, you will start to calm things down a lot quicker. Now, for whatever reason, I knew I had to move. Even whenever my disc injuries were really bad, I just intrinsically knew I had to move because I would feel better. And this actually served me long term as well, because with ankylosing spondylitis, which is inflammatory arthritis, one of the best things to help manage it is regular movement. And I always noticed if I didn't move, then I would feel much worse the next day. So this is what we're after. Even if something does feel uncomfortable as you start to work at it, how does it feel later on? How quickly does it calm down? And what do you actually feel like the next day? The more you're able to keep consistent and be able to keep on moving even when the pain's there, the faster you're actually going to start to get rid of the pain long term. If you keep avoiding movements, you will just keep on getting weaker. So combine stretching exercises for your hips, movements for your spine, and also loads of muscle activation that you can cope with your hips as well. Get your glutes feeling like they're doing something, get your hamstrings feeling like they're doing something as well, and that helps to keep the spine feeling supported. If we talk about ankylosing for a second, you may go through periods of inflammation whenever usually movements that you can do actually start to feel a bit uncomfortable to do. The key to that is knowing how to regress movements. So if I found it uncomfortable on some days to squat, I would still have worked on the squat, but I would have held on to something to ease into it and maybe reduce the range of motion a little bit so I could still move. I always found if I did that, it calmed down a lot quicker than if I just rested completely for like 3 or 4 days. I would have been so much stiffer when I started trying to get into movements again. So being able to regress things is one of the best things you can do, because if you're going to go through these periods of having inflammation from time to time, you need to know how to manage it when it happens rather than avoid things completely. One of the best lessons that I learned was not to wait until you feel perfect to be able to move. Stretching when you're stiffest actually helps to train your body out of keeping that stiffness. One of the best things that I've ever done is every morning as soon as I wake up, I do some kind of gentle wiggle, gentle movement, assisted squats, or just my leg up on my bed and wiggle my hips around and give my spine some kind of movement. Now whenever I wake up in the mornings, I can get out of bed and I could touch my toes with straight legs if I want. So I went from being someone that was incredibly stiff, even before my disc injuries, to now someone that wakes up ready to move. And I very rarely feel the need to do like intense warm-ups for training or anything like that. It has literally changed how my body moves all of the time. So stretch when you're stiffest and you will train yourself out of that habit. What about training? You go to the gym regularly and you lift weights regularly. Well, instead of going for the big boys whenever you're at the gym or the barbell work, going for lighter dumbbells and are able to still do the movements that you normally train, but in a lighter way. So you just reduce the intensity for a while, and that means you can still work the muscles and get things moving without pressing your body too much. So from here, I want to use hinge variations to get the glutes feeling good. I want to also use squat variations to get my hips stretched as well. So the goblet squat is a great one. And just quite simply by using tempo, I'm able to get core activation and work on my hip strength at the same time as well. So slowing things down, but still keeping some element of weight in there is super important. Also for me, what I always found was tons of upper body. I was okay if I did a ton of pull-ups, ton of push-ups, ton of rows and things like that. Gymnastics rings were fantastic for me, so I just overloaded with the upper body whenever my lower back was playing up significantly and focused on more moderate weights and lower body stretches in my overall training. So I never skipped the gym, I just altered what I was doing so I could keep on going. Another myth that I want to kind of debunk as well is that your core needs to be on all of the time. This absolutely isn't the case. There is different levels of core engagement for exercises that you're doing. So you don't need to try and walk around with your middle braced all of the time, but if you're doing the side plank technique with the maximal bracing, holding that for time, working on the hip activation, then you can relax things off a little bit. If my core wasn't on right now, I would just fall into a bag of bones. So it is always on to some extent, but I'm not going to use the same amount of intensity to pick up a small coin as I would for doing a 200 kg deadlift. It's different, so don't be thinking you need to think about this or make sure that you're walking around trying to be careful all of the time. Practice your bracing in your training and your mobility work, and then throughout the day, just let this do what it needs to do. It will figure itself out. So as long as you're doing that happy mix of both and you're moving your spine in all directions that you can, you will feel okay. You don't need to consciously think about this all of the time. One of the other things you can start to think is that you need to start doing aggressive stretches all of the time and starting to get deep into your end ranges of motion. This is not the case. I was able to get 100% pain-free just with simple exercises that even a beginner could do at first. So it's one of those things we want to keep ourselves consistent. If you start going too far too soon and start trying to push yourself into the deepest ranges you can get right away, you'll aggravate things further and you'll just cheese yourself off. So it's not essential to get further with your flexibility. Lots of stuff just like this that are assisted one side at a time is absolutely fine, and I find that way more effective than any type of aggressive stretching. But what about a flare-up? Whenever you are making progress, it is quite natural to run into a flare-up. You think that you're fixed, and then all of a sudden, oh no, I'm broken, and I'm never going to feel okay again. I'm right back to square one. I'm broken forever. These are all natural thoughts that run through your head, and they're completely normal. Don't freak out about them. If you started to make a bit of progress with some movements, you will start to find you go back to those movements, you will calm that flare-up down quicker than ever. It's very rare for someone to go right back to the very start of their pain levels. It's usually not as bad as the initial injury, and what you'll find is if you keep moving through it, keep your breathing relaxed, and know that you did feel okay, you will get to that stage again. So moving through it, gamify it, essentially. That's what I did. Whenever I had my worst flare-up, it was a couple of months before it felt better, and then after that it was a few weeks before it felt better, and then I got to a point after a few days I could feel better, and now I haven't had a significant flare-up in many, many years. Even if I get the slightest inkling of nerve pain, I'm able to just stretch it out in a few minutes, and that is a stage that you can get to. Training yourself out of pain is possible. Now, that being said, we also don't want to go too far the other way, and when we're feeling good, we just start smashing our training as much as we can and doing a ton of things that we've been avoiding for a while temporarily. We want to make sure that we're keeping a training log of all the stuff that we're doing and build yourself back up gradually to getting yourself back to the stage that you were at before the injury, and then you can start to push things further. So you can get stronger and be able to cope with more than you ever have. That's absolutely possible. But in the initial stages, when things are feeling good, only gradually start to step things up. Some of us have much better cardiovascular health than what we're aware of, and you may be able to go out and have a massive long run or do a hard training session and still be able to have that output. But your body, if you've had to rest for a while or alter your training for a while, won't be able to cope with that level of output just yet. So that's why you build yourself back up gradually, and then when you've got yourself back to that point that you feel 100% confident and you're almost like you're feeling like you're holding yourself back a little too much, that's when you can start to take the foot off the brake and start to push things even further. Your goal isn't to avoid pain forever. Bodies aren't machines, they're going to go through stages, even of just heightened stress. And that was a big one for me, that anytime I went through some kind of life stress, my lower back then started to play up and was like, oh, this is the last thing I need. But your body can't really distinguish the difference between mental stress and physical stress. So if you've had a lot of duress with your back and it caused you a lot of significant pain, you can find that little things can trigger it over time. The trick is to manage your flare-ups, to keep moving even when things are sore, and learning how to make movements slightly easier so that you can keep going. So it's the biggest thing. Don't be expecting that you're going to be fixed one time and be perfect forevermore. If you fall off the wagon, which is totally normal, some people do, you just stop exercising for a while and, life likes to throw its challenges, and you maybe stop doing stuff for a while, you can get a bit of a flare-up. But the key is to not freak out. If you've done it once before, you already have the tools and know how to get on top of it again. And again, gamify it. Try and do it faster than you've ever done it before. Now, when to seek medical attention. If you literally fell over something, heard a crack in your spine, or are intense amounts of pain, then go to the doctor. Go and get seen to, get yourself on the system. If it's something that happened and you thought it was going to go away and you've been trying physiotherapy, treatment and stretches and stuff, and the symptoms still persist and it feels worse, then it's good to go and get an MRI scan just to know what's going on, just in case 10 or 20 years down the road, something maybe progresses worse or you get some kind of strange new symptom. You know what it is and you're able to deal with it much faster. Now, the big ones are any kind of loss of bladder control or limb function. If you look down and you can't move your leg or something like that, that's a biggie. Go to hospital. Don't try and do any stretches. Long term, for something like ankylosing spondylitis, I happened to get updated MRI scans to check the progression of my initial disc injuries, and it showed that I had the inflammatory damage that had been going on for years. Then I got another updated one just 6 months later, and it showed that it was still progressing at quite a fast rate. So now, even though I have zero pain or any symptoms whatsoever, I now know that I need to take the medication in order to slow that progression down so that, again, 5, 10, 20 years, it's not much worse. So there's always little things like that that can creep up, but I would always lean towards stay focused on in what you can keep control of, which is your strength, your movement, and the things that you do a little bit every day. Doing 5 minutes as soon as you wake up in the morning, making sure that you're having some kind of stretches that you can do just throughout the day on anything that you have at hand, making sure to walk regularly, keeping on top of your sleep, nutrition, all of that stuff is super important and can really help you have a much better life. So, even though I have 4 lumbar disc herniations and all that kind of crazy nonsense in my spine, I'm not afraid to bend or twist or move in any way that I want whatsoever. And that is what I want for everyone that has experienced something like this as well, because it's a very lonely place to be and your life is just not the way you want it to be. You're always scared of moving, scared of being in pain, and you become hard to be around as well. And it's not your fault, because pain changes you as a person. It makes you super grumpy. So I have put all of this information down in the back pain bundle. It has the lower back pain flare-up protocol, which is all the techniques and stuff that I've explained here of how to calm things down gently in a way, and even move through pain. It also has the simplistic mobility method, which teaches you about your imbalances left to right, builds on all of your strength, and makes all of your joints move the way they're supposed to, and spines love that when everything else is doing its job properly. And it also has Ultimate Core, which teaches you everything you need to know about core work in a way that treats it like spine health, that takes things even further and keeps you even stronger. So head over to tommorrison.uk if you'd like to get started there, and if not, I shall see you in the next one.